The unknown tier list is already going to be done just for the sake of time because most of these players are the players we haven't seen since the second selection or they rode the bench during the U20 game. And this guy who I think he was a sub for, the U20 game. Good for him, I guess, but we literally have not seen him do anything else. Starting off with Asagi, the man himself, Himsagiism, very true believer. He's going in main player just due to the fact that he can work well with anyone. He now upped his scoring ability with his left direct shot, and the fact that him and Corona basically tore up the Manshine field by themselves during that game kind of also like cemented him that he could definitely be a main player if the team decides to focus around him. Next is the Dark Hero Kunigami. He's a starter, but here's the problem. He does score goals, so that obviously will put him in starter regardless. But the issue is that he is not very much of a team player, and he is actually the only player in the Neo Egoist League to get benched with, Noah asking, do you have any way to refute what I've just said for the reasons you've been subbed? And Kunigami kindly responded, no, I can't. So I think he's comfortable sitting in starter just because he doesn't really show anything else that's worth anything of him being a starter besides the fact that he can poach goals and he has good 1v1 dueling ability, but most of the time we've been shown that he has that is he's lost. He's taken some kind of an L, I'm not gonna lie. Next is Raichi, who I think is honestly a sub because he's like a low-key version of Tokimitsu. And honestly, Noah at least said that he has one good 1v1 dueling ability, but we haven't seen it really come to shine yet. So maybe as the Ubers game goes on, we'll have see justification for him becoming a starter. Next, going to Chigiri. Chigiri honestly is going in starter because he can replicate goals, which is a big motivator. But the thing is that it will say is one weakness is that once you figure out how he gets the goals, you can easily cut it off. It can be stopped. But otherwise, he's a speed demon, who can race up and down the field whenever needed. Also made some good defensive plays during the the Manshine game, which really I think helped boost his standings here. Next is Igarashi. Honestly, not on a team. I don't think that needs to be said. But he's not on a team regardless. Next is Nico, who I think, with his performance in the U20 game, he's a starter. I'm not going to downplay Nico. I won't do my man like that. He did just shut down Asagi in the new chapter. So I'll give him my credit. I'll give him his due diligence. Baro is 120% a main player, and Spain literally showed the benefits of making him a main player, which is basically if you focus around him, similar to how Bastard has their finish around Kaiser, basically Spain has his finish around Baro, which shows his effectiveness as a striker. And also, they literally got him to pass. So he's actually written here for finally a good reason. He can pass the ball. He knows damn well he's gonna finish it, but at least he passes the ball. That's the shining moment out of all of this. Zantetsu, honestly, I think he's underrated. He's one of the underrated players where I think he could honestly be a starter with his kit because he loses to people like Chigiri who are faster over longer periods of time. But I feel like he's also a downgraded version of Julian Loki, which, he's currently on the France team. So Julian Loki will probably awaken him, and maybe he'll actually start thinking for himself, which would also help boost him and keep him in starter. Rio he is a starter in the Manshine game, but I think he's fine as starter. This is gonna sound really, disingenuous to Rio, but he's a poor man's Asagi, honestly. Like, Asagi can work with anyone, but Rio really only seems to work best with Nagi, which, to be fair, they're partners and they've been playing together since they were, before Blue Ox, so it makes sense. But at the same time, he's also unlocked Metavision and also has good controlling of the field as a midfielder, so I think he's fine as starter, and they were obviously right to put him in starter. Nagi is a main player, but under the right circumstances. Otherwise, he's just at the top of starter due to the fact that he makes insane goals and can make goals off pretty much anything he normally can work with. But he's going to be put in main player, but I feel like he may go through a slump based off the ending of the Manshine game. And I think this is also due to the lack of partner type, because Rio is a good partner for him, but Rio also has negatives that I think Nagi is going to have to find out the rough way. While Asagi would have been his best partner, an optimal partner, even though I know people aren't going to like me saying that, but that's just how I feel. It's a tier list, it's opinionated. Rin, honestly, is self-explanatory. Main player. If anything, he's at the top of main player due to the fact that he literally was the Blue Lock 11 main star. So, you know, he's upgraded Asagi if Rio's downgraded Asagi, to be honest. And Rio probably has only gotten better on PSG, and he's probably the main star on that team. It's kind of like how Bachira was for Barca FC, and where is Bachira? Oh, there he is. Bachira is a weird case. Also, I moved up because I forgot him because I was going chronologically, but I kind of put him in the wrong spot, not gonna lie. Bachira, he's like another Chigiri where I think he's at the top of starter, where he could be a main player, and he was on the Barca team, but the problem was he was the only one who scored on the Barca team, so I feel like when it comes down to like the next, you know, World Cup game when the Blue Lock 11 is chosen again, he will be obviously a starter for sure, but the thing is, he's not going to be someone who, like, he can do something on his own when he's at his best, and he's definitely a main player when he's at his best, but normally he's high starter. Otoya, okay, Otoya should be a starter, but honestly, the way he played in the Barca game kind of put him at a sub, because he really did not do anything besides, you know, give Bachira an assist. Otherwise, he really did nothing to make himself stand out comparatively to the rest of the people on the list that are not on bench. Togimitsu, okay, Togimitsu's a starter, let's be realistic. Just because he has confidence issues, the only reason he'd be put in sub or bench, but Tokimitsu is I feel like he's gonna be a great player when it comes out to the PSG game. Because he's gonna, as long as he gets some good confidence, he's literally actually up there in Blue Lock, and he's very slept on. Probably in the top 3 most underrated Blue Lock characters. RU was a starter in the U20 game, and he did just kind of do something in the recent chapter, but I honestly feel like he could be a sub, but because otherwise he doesn't really do anything. He's a good defensive end just because he's tall, but otherwise he honestly could be a sub. Hiyori's a starter. There's no way. He's a starter. If he's got Itoshi Sai level passes, he's a starter by no understatement. He just needs to actually like soccer, and he could honestly be a main star with the way he beat passing. Kind of like how Asagi was the main star for the Manshine versus Bastard game, because Asagi dominated the game and won man of the match, or mom. Nanase's honestly, he's on the bench. Just he didn't really shine. He only really helped Asagi stand out. I don't remember if he was on the bench for the U20 game, but he doesn't really. He's a good role player, and if one of your if you needed that specifically, I guess you could go to him and he would be moved up to sub. But otherwise, he doesn't really stand out as like a player that would be even worth like subbing in. Karasu's a starter. He's high starter. Because basically, another underrated character. And yeah, he got beat by Asagi, but I think overall, he's a really good player with his ball keeping abilities and analytical abilities, so he's a really good person to just go through. He'd kind of probably be in a similar situation to where he's like a secondary player. Like if there was a secondary star player, Karasu would definitely be it. Gagamaru's a starter. They're the only goalkeeper in Blue Lock, so I think he's just a starter by default, but hey, my man makes some incredible saves, so I can't really be mad. Shido is also going to be main player, just due to the fact that he was, the secondary considered option for Blue Lock's 11, and also with his performance in the U20 game, that I think really just puts him there, just that alone. He hasn't really done something in PSG, which is interesting to see how that team dynamic is going to work, due to the fact that it might be that he's not performing well due to the fact that he doesn't have a Toshi Sai, someone who can link up with him, because one of the issues he had was the fact that no one really could link up with him in Blue Lock. So that might be an issue for him, which is why he makes less than Ren, at least in terms of their value. Now, most of the U20 members, I'm not going to lie, the normal U20 members are honestly going to sub, so I'm just going to, for the sake of time, slide them up to sub. Except the defenders, I think honestly could be starters because they were starters and they were the shining part of their team. So I think they are starters. And it's weird to see that most of them are on the bench, except Sendo, which I think Sendo is honestly a fucking sub. I'm gonna be really honest. I think he's a sub. I'm not giving Sendo respect. He had a great moment, but I'm not giving that guy respect. The rest of the U20, besides the 4 defenders, are subs, to be honest, not gonna lie. Like, they're good enough to make a national team, I guess, but, you know, as Jinpachi Ego said, Japan's third rate. Yuki Miyama's a starter, but not just because he's a starter. He actually has great 1v1 dueling ability. The fact that he literally almost scored a goal during the Manchai game, even though it was stopped by Chris Prince and got called pathetic, which was a big yikes. He definitely deserves to be in starter because he at least actually has a good performance to show it. He just needs to be more willing to work with his team, and I think, honestly, he could be a main star, but probably for a smaller team, not like the major teams. Corona, I'm going to slap at starter. He's honestly the best secondary assist character behind Hiyori, where they're not really trying to get goals, they're just more willing to assist to get their value. I think Corona's very much shown why he's up there. Being able to link up with Asagi and tear up the field, just the two of them, and then, you know, a 2v20